Fish teeth, bottom line, there's these two types of fish, right? And if they are closely related, what happens?
They evolved once.
And they evolved once. But what did it say?
They
They're not
are not
closely
closely
related.
They are not closely related. Therefore,
did not evolve.
it did not occur once. It's legit, right? No.
No.
Totally. So this argument treated what?
What is sufficient and
That's
necessary?
They treated a sufficient condition. This is a sufficient condition for once, right? They treated a sufficient condition as if it were a necessary condition, right? If it had been like this, then this would have been legit. Because if you negate that, then you can negate that, right? So they treated a sufficient condition as if it were a necessary condition. How many people predicted that before they went into the answers? Okay? A few of us? If you did, it's super fast. There's only one answer that comes remotely close to this. That is C, right? Takes a sufficient condition as a necessary one. It takes a sufficient condition and treats it as a necessary one. What answers were debated?
B.
B?
I just have a quick question about like the sufficient and necessary
Yeah.
condition because it doesn't say like what it's treated. It doesn't say like takes a sufficient condition for CR. It just says takes a sufficient.
Yeah.
So like
it makes it actually an easier.
so if there was
answer.
like if all of these answer choices were the same except for C, it says takes a necessary condition for a sufficient condition. Would that work? Because like it's just like depending.
I don't know if that'd work. I mean, because what we were given was a sufficient condition, and then they treated that
As the necessary.
as a necessary.
Okay.
I mean, if we didn't have anything else,
Yeah.
and it said takes a necessary condition as a sufficient one, I would pick it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could say, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the flaw here. It's
Yeah.
dealing with necessary sufficient, but I think they wrote it that way because we're really dealing with a sufficient condition here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, answer choice A infers a cause merely from a correlation. Do we have correlation causation? Nope. It just says they evolved more than once. That has nothing to do with what caused what. B infers that just because the evidence for a particular claim has not yet been confirmed, that claim is false. What claim are they talking about in answer choice B?
The relation.
Okay.
Are they saying, like, possibly related?
Although possibly related, they are not closely related. I don't think that we're saying that they're not related. We're just saying that they're not closely related, which is a different claim. Right? Like, you're saying infers that just because the evidence for a particular claim, the evidence for the claim that they are related, has not yet been confirmed, that claim is false. They are not related. This argument isn't going so far as saying that they're not related.
But it's using that to say that the claim is false.
No. What claim?
Like, they're like, oh, because you haven't proved that they're related, they're not related, so...
Wait, no.
Or not that they're not related, but like, because you haven't proved that you haven't been able to prove that they're closely related, so they evolved more than once. Like, they are using that.
Okay.
It's not as concise as C, but like, I don't see how that isn't happening.
So let's go through this word by word, because in a flaw question, there are two questions you can ask yourself as you read the answers. Do you guys remember?
Is it happening? And
Is it
a
happening?
flaw?
Is it flaw? So let's start with is it happening? So, does the argument infer that just because the evidence for a particular claim has not yet been confirmed? So, what is the evidence for the particular claim?
Genetic tests show that they are only possibly related.
Wait, the genetic tests show that they are not closely related.
But possibly.
Yes,
I just
that's
saw
that
possibly.
possibly is related to what though?
Being related.
Related.
So are we just matching closely related to closely related? Like, why would I skip?
No, we're
possibly
matching
related?
closely related to the conclusion ultimately, but the evidence for the conclusion, right, has been confirmed. That says that genetic tests show that the two species are not closely related. They might be related, but we've shown that they're not closely related. So that evidence has been confirmed. The evidence that they might be related hasn't been confirmed, but that's not the evidence that they're using to disprove the conclusion. Or to say that the specialization evolved more than once.
Wait, they're not. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So the second to last sentence has two claims, right? One is that the two species are not closely related. The other one is that they might be related. But is the claim that they might be related being used to support the idea that they evolved more than once?
No.
No. It's the idea that they're not closely related that's being used to prove that they evolved more, or this specialization evolved more than once.
Okay.
So the uncertain piece of evidence is not really relevant to the conclusion.
Okay.
The relevant evidence, which is about how they are not closely related, has been confirmed by genetic tests.
Okay.
Mickey, you cool with that?
Like, yes, but I know
Like
that if,
yes?
yeah,
it's not quite
because
yes.
if I read this again, I would probably choose the
Yeah,
same
that's
answer.
kind of where I like.
Well, wait. So
Like if I read the same, like not this exact passage, but if I read
Yeah, yeah.
a different one, I think I would make the same mistake. I would still focus on possibly.
so
I feel like I wouldn't have chosen. Yeah, I feel the same way. Except for if C hadn't been here, I would still. Like I see how C's better, but I still would choose this if C hadn't been there.
I guess now that we're reading it, what are we doing to see that it's wrong?
I'm not understanding what is sufficient. Like, sufficient is that they're.
So wait, hold on. Is
closely
your issue
related?
with C or is your issue with B?
My issue is with why C is better than B.
Okay.
Like I was between.
Do
B
you
and
understand
C.
why B would never work?
Yes,
Why?
because the genetic test shows that they're not closely related.
Yep. So B is not even describing something that's happening.
Yeah.
So even if C didn't exist, we couldn't pick B.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Yes.
Okay, now, to get to C,
Okay.
it says takes a sufficient condition as a necessary one. Just going back to this, in an if-then statement, which condition is the sufficient condition?
CR.
CR, right? And this is the necessary condition, right? So when this person said CR is not true, they were negating a sufficient condition.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
If you negate a sufficient condition, can you then conclude that the necessary condition must not be true too?
No.
No. If you negate a necessary condition, can you do that?
Yes.
Yes. Like if it said once leads to CR. Like if this is what it didn't say this, but if it had said this, right? And I said, well, CR is not true, then could I conclude this?
Yes.
Yes. So in this case, in this if-then statement, what is that?
The necessary.
That's the necessary condition, and that's the sufficient condition. So what this argument did is when it said this, it was referring to that, which is in fact a sufficient condition.
So do you suggest that I would draw this out and see that? Because I don't see that in the words. Like I'm not seeing, like I don't.
I don't think that you necessarily need to draw it out. I guess I would just see it in the words in the sense that any if clause is a sufficient condition. So when I was reading this and it says, if they are closely related, I was like, okay, sufficient condition. And then it's like, they're not closely related. I was like, what? You just denied the sufficient condition. That does nothing.
Oh.
Therefore, how can you draw a conclusion on the basis of that?
Okay, because you're saying if, and then they're saying, well, they're not. So then you're saying, okay, well, then
Yeah.
what? Understood.
Cool. We feel good about this one? Anyone tempted by any other answers? E is silly. It's almost always wrong. People rarely appeal to the authority of someone else. If they do, it's obviously the wrong answer. And answer choice D, actually D can be correct. Infers merely because something was likely to occur that it did occur. We didn't go from, hey, it's likely, therefore it will. Or it's likely it won't, therefore it won't. We didn't see that. All right, cool.